Well, 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 it's that time of year once again, by which I mean, the end of the year. It's time for kicking back, relaxing, celebrating our accomplishments, and most importantly of all, looking back on the last 365 days. And a good thing too, because it's been one hell of a year for video games. To begin with, Elden Ring reminded us all why we fear ladies with swords, then Vampire Survivors briefly supplanted heroin as the most addictive thing on planet Earth, and later on, even our old friends at Blizzard Entertainment contributed to making this an interesting year in video games by seeing just how far they could stretch the definition of the word sequel. Unfortunately, with all this stuff going on, there have been a bunch of fantastic games released in 2022 that have been overshadowed, overtaken, or just plain overlooked. And that's why I've taken it upon myself to make my obligatory end of the year roundup not about the best games of the year, or even my favourite ones, but about 20 games released in the last 12 months that you should have played, but that you might have missed out on. That means that I'll be focusing mostly on smaller, weirder indie games and not massive blockbusters that have already sold millions of copies, because you've probably already played them and that would kinda defeat the point of the video, right? Also, to help you out, I'll put a little graphic in the corner of the screen right there to tell you the best price for each game during the obligatory holiday sales and whether they're on any sort of Game Pass service. Okay? Sound good? Well, let's start things off on a high note with Trombone Champ, which to the untrained eye might appear to be a mere rhythm game, a toy for you to pretend to play trombone on the computer. But to the senses of a true trombone connoisseur, it is a deep and nuanced work of art, one of, if not the greatest rhythm games ever made. Now that's not to imply the music you'll make will sound good, because it definitely won't. But that's all part of Trombone Champ's charm. It deliberately leans into the inherent stupidity of rhythm games by giving the trombones lots of baboon-themed lore, adding a weird card-collecting minigame, and generally giving you loads of songs to play that were absolutely not designed with the trombone in mind. It is a great little game, and by far the best musical title you will play this year, mark my words. Following on from that is a title called Symphony of War, the Nephilim Saga, which takes the classic format and mechanics of the Fire Emblem series and gives them a complete overhaul into something that, I'll be honest, is basically just better. Symphony of War gives you an insane degree of customization, asking you not just to manage individual hero characters, but entire armies. Each army in the battlefield is comprised of multiple units, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, and each one dying for good if they get killed. This opens up a bunch of strategic depth and some brilliantly tense moments. Couple that with a monster of a campaign and a bunch of really well-designed maps, Symphony of War has a little strategic something for everyone, from tactical geniuses to dum-dums like me who just like to fill a scorp with dragons and see what happens. Next up is Tunic, which is in many ways more than meets the eye. Now, I don't want to spoil too much, because solving mysteries is all part of the fun of this game, but I will tell you that it's a little bit more than the cutesy Legend of Zelda ripoff that it appears to be. Basically, Tunic's central gimmick is that you collect the pages of the game's own instruction manual as you play, but it's not written in English. And as a result, a lot of Tunic's most satisfying gameplay happens not during combat or exploration, but when you're trying to decipher the codes and clues hidden within the manual, uncovering details and obscured gameplay systems hidden in plain sight, which are incredibly fun to reveal. Trust me, there were several moments in my playthrough of Tunic where I was left stunned by just how cleverly some of these things were hidden, and also just how stupid I felt. If that's a feeling that you also enjoy, definitely pick this one up. Speaking of secrets, let's mosey on over from video games to the local cinema and look at Immortality, which is by far the most pretentious game on the list, and it's all the better for it. Immortality gives you a massive collection of clips from the unreleased filmography of the little-known actress Marissa Marcel, and tasks you with exploring her life, career, and relationships in more or less any way you wish. And the way the game does this is great. You can select anything on the screen at any time, and the game will zip to another clip where that thing also appears, letting you dive down this endless rabbit hole of 3 expertly recreated and time period appropriate pieces of film. There is so much to discover in Immortality, and as a result, I really recommend just kinda taking your time with the game and not focusing too much on seeing everything as fast as possible. In fact, don't be afraid to watch some of the clips more than once. You'll be amazed at how different they look with a small change in perspective. Trust me. Back in video game land, a weirdly prevalent theme from games this year was alchemy, but one potion brewing game stands above the rest, and that is Potionomics, a genius fusion of economics game, deck builder, and visual novel, with a great sense of humour and cracking animation. You spend most of your time brewing potions using a surprisingly in-depth crafting system before taking your tailor-made deck of haggling cards to the shop floor in order to bluff, persuade, and manipulate your customers into paying top dollar for your creations. It's an amazingly satisfying gameplay loop that sees you gradually building up a supply of ingredients, equipment, and adventurer pals that all feed into each other in this great self-sustaining loop. If you're going into battle and need the strongest potions, well then you can't go too far wrong with Potionomics. Following that is PowerWash Simulator, a game that may or may not be the single most satisfying video game that I've ever played. All it involves is you being given a virtual power washer as well as a virtual building or vehicle caked in grime. After that, the game just sort of leaves you to do what comes naturally. PowerWash Sim is almost zen in how you can completely lose yourself to the simple, blissful rhythm of blasting surfaces clean until suddenly you wake up from your trance and an hour has gone by and you've completely cleaned an entire skate park, house, or truck, and even some slightly more adventurous locations that took me completely by surprise. PowerWash Sim, despite a, quite dry premise, has more than enough charm and satisfying gameplay to keep you going through tens of hours of gameplay, and it's even got multiplayer. After that, I need to ask you something. Do you like meat? Do you like meat that's alive? Do you like meat that's alive and hates you? Well, even if you don't, then Golden Light, the most viscerally upsetting game I've played this year, might be for you. It's a game that actively resists the idea of explaining what the hell is going on, and instead you've got to decipher basic gameplay mechanics all by yourself in between figuring out the story and how not to get eaten by meat mimics coming to devour your face. The game is a brain-rotting fever dream, but under all that is a genuinely pretty interesting roguelike with some great systemic mechanics and enemy design. Plus, you can eat basically every weapon, and honestly that's just something more games should do. Golden Light is great if you love paranoia and confusion, which of course everyone should. On the subject of meat, have you ever wondered how fish is made? I certainly have, and after playing this incredibly well-researched documentary video game, I've got to tell you that I've got more questions than answers. For one, I wasn't expecting fish to go through quite so much of a meditation on choice and free will, all through the perspective of a can-bound sardine wondering whether they should go up or down at the end of their journey. But the fun of the game is in talking to the characters, finding out whether to obey or rebel against your destiny, and wondering if your choice matters at all. There's even a musical number and some great jokes hidden within the existential terror at the futility of existence. How Fish is Made is like 15 minutes long and is free, so really you've got no excuse not to play it and choose for yourself. Do it! If you're looking for something a bit more fun, I can't recommend Rollerdrome any more highly. It's easily one of my biggest surprises of the year. The game takes rollerblading and turns it into a fast-paced, gun-slinging combat sport all about racking up massive combos and pulling off cool tricks, all while avoiding hails of gunfire. Even without the blasting, Rollerdrome is a genuinely compelling score attack game, and the addition of guns really just brings it to the next level. Of course, Rollerdrome's dynamite premise was more than enough to suck me in, but what kept me playing all the way to the end is just how deep the combat is. Expertly blending stringing tricks together with a sort of nuanced and smooth style that will make present-day Platinum games extremely jealous. And if that's not a recommendation, I don't know what is. At the halfway mark, we've got Hardspace Shipbreaker, which is a game that sees you risking your life dismantling physics-based spaceships under immense time pressure. It's a concept that should be incredibly stressful, but it's actually weirdly therapeutic in spite of the fact that you often suffocate in the void of space or get blown up by unstable reactors. Hardspace Shipbreaker's systemic mechanics like pressure, electricity, and fire combine with the semi-predictable layout of each ship to create a really rewarding mix of practice and improvisation as each ship poses new challenges and new ways to narrowly avoid death to squeeze out cool efficiencies, whilst also teaching you important lessons that you can use to build up a real familiarity with each model of ship. For example, maybe don't use a laser cutter on an active fuel line. That's one us expert shipbreakers know. You've got to be pretty good at the game to figure that one out, but I'm giving it to you for free, you're welcome. What's the most interesting time and place in all of human history? Romance of the Three Kingdoms era China? Rome at the height of the Empire's power? Victorian England? All wrong. The correct answer is 16th century Bavaria, which just so happens to be the setting of Pentiment. Pentiment is a game that sees you playing as an artist living and working within the confines of the town of Tassig and its local abbey, both of which are beset by mysteries, scandal, and the stresses of a modernizing world. Everything in Pentiment, from its faithfully recreated meals to its lovingly realized woodwork manuscript style to its many characters, are treated with such care and reverence for real-life history that it's impossible not to get sucked into the setting and the decade-spanning mystery that lies within. If you're in the mood for some historical drama and sleuthing, then please do check out Pentiment. Okay, so Hyperbolica is hands down the single greatest game I've ever played. I would sooner die than play anything else, and oh, wait, sorry, wrong hyperbolic. What Hyperbolica is actually about is hyperbolic geometry, a complicated branch of mathematics which is very confusing, very disorienting, and as it turns out, a great setting for a puzzle game. In Hyperbolica, even simple puzzles like navigating a maze or zooming around a restaurant take on an additional dimension within hyperbolic space, as you have to unlearn and then relearn all of your assumptions about how the world works. This game is not for everyone, particularly if you suffer from motion sickness, but for people who want to learn about spatial geometry, do some cool puzzles, and interact with some suspiciously familiar robots, then Hyperbolica is a damn fine time. Following on from that, in the same vein, we have The Looker, a game that's a deliberate spoof of the Witness-style puzzle games, and it achieves this by being a good and very funny little title in its own right. Seriously, The Looker, despite being a comedy game, has some genuinely creative twists on its puzzling format, and you will kick yourself several times for not spotting all the clever ways the game manipulates its simple but flexible line drawing mechanics. The Looker is free and like an hour long, so really there's no reason not to play it all the way through. Trust me, there is a joke in the game which got me to laugh the hardest I've laughed all year, and I don't want to spoil it, but you'll know exactly what I mean when you play the game and realise what a juvenile sense of humour I have. And the next game is Foxhole, and geez, where do I even start with this one? Foxhole might be the most accurate video game simulation of war ever, and I don't mean that it's an ultra-realistic FPS. No, instead, Foxhole forces members of each of the two warring factions to man their own supply lines, build their own weapons and vehicles, and conduct their own logistics across a massive persistent battlefield. The game is all about mass-scale strategy, with you participating in days-long campaigns as you fight and die to secure new territory or defend your holdings. Foxhole is a brutal, merciless meat grinder of a game, but it's also the foundation upon which some truly great military adventures can be built. Plus, the community is super friendly, so if any of what I've said strikes a chord, jump on in, I'm sure they'll be happy to have a few more recruits. For another overly literal game title, I'm convinced that the premise of Control-Alt-Ego was born when someone decided to take the name of the control button on the keyboard a little bit too literally. Let me explain. You take the role of a disembodied consciousness floating around a space station with the ability to jump inside of and control just about anything, from robots to doors to cameras, and you can use this ability to tackle a whole bunch of immersive sim-style problems in a bunch of incredibly creative ways. The game's tools allow you to teleport, fly around, and respawn whenever you want, as well as a bunch of other stuff, but somehow every potential solution that I found, even the ones I thought were bugs, were accounted for in advance by the developers. The game is that flexible. And if you needed any more convincing that the game is a real passion project, all the achievement icons are pictures of the developer's cat, which is just great. I think the game's a real sleeper hit. Please do pick it up. For a different pace of shooter, there's Signalis, which, I'll be honest, I can pitch to you in 3 words. And if that description takes your fancy, then just pick the game up right now. Blade Runner meets Lovecraft. Yep, that's what the game's all about. And honestly, befitting that description, Signalis has some absolutely incredible atmosphere and world design, putting you in a creepy, destroyed space outpost fallen to crazy corruption and reality-warping weirdness that makes you question fundamental aspects of your perception. Beyond that, Signalis eclipses its Resident Evil-inspired roots with some of the best puzzles in the biz. There's so many really creative little mechanics that all fit effortlessly into the weird, anachronistic analog setting of the game, really helping to break up the tense skulking around excellently. It might not be the scariest horror game of the year, but Signalis is absolutely the most stylish. Give it a play and find out for yourself. For something a bit lighter, might I recommend Not For Broadcast? And I'll be upfront here and say that Not For Broadcast is a game with a very specific sense of humour, and that's ridiculous camp British telly, so it might not be for everyone, but it's definitely for me. Basically, you get put in charge of a TV channel for a country which is not England, and have to make sure to cut to the right cameras, censor naughty words, and play the right adverts. But in this position, you also get to sway public opinion by, say, showing that this police officer is a hypocritical fan of gimps, or choosing to advertise people a tunnel-based form of transport with the acronym MOVES. Yep, that's the level of comedy we're looking at here, and it is glorious. Not For Broadcast has a genuinely insane amount of footage in it, and everyone involved, especially the guy playing Jeremy Donaldson, looks like they had the absolute time of their lives making it. Please do check the game out. And there we have it. 17 games that you should have played from this year. Hang on a sec, didn't I say there were going to be 20? Alright, yeah, okay, you caught me. I lied a little bit. These final 3 games are special because they're my top 3 games you should have played from this year. Which means that if you're only going to play one game that I've mentioned in this video, it probably ought to be one of these ones. Okay? But before that, I think In the spirit of retrospectives, that we should take a look back at a beloved titan of the video gaming industry that, sadly, isn't able to be with us today. I hope you'll all join me in pressing F to pay respects to the universally liked, wildly popular Google Stadia. Yes, I'm sorry to say that so many good games, all those good ideas and sensible business practices that we really associate with the Stadia brand, they were all taken from us far too soon. It's up there in good hardware heaven right now, right there, next to the Wii U and the Atari Jaguar. Rest easy, sweet prince. You've earned it. Anyway, that's quite enough of that. To start off the top 3, let me tell you a little bit about Teardown, which is, to date, the only video game I've ever played to successfully capture the cinematic fun of a heist, and it does this with an incredibly cool simulated world bursting with cool voxely things for you to collapse, blow up, or otherwise destroy. Each of the game's various heists will have a simple objective, from stealing some paintings, to crashing some cars, to demolishing a building. But they'll also always give you an incredibly short time limit that activates the moment you actually start the heist. So what happens is that in order to get all your objectives done, you need to carefully plan and construct your ideal route through the level in order to execute a flawless attempt. I think the best thing about Teardown is how it really rewards thinking outside the box. Sure, you could just run between objectives or drive a car to where you need to go and get some of the way there, but it's much more effective for you to blast holes through walls, take sneaky shortcuts by chaining vehicles together, and clambering up buildings using improvised ladders. In fact, certain objectives in the game can't be beaten legitimately, and instead you just need to cheat. Like this personal favourite, where you need to get around a track as fast as you can, but if you're clever and careful, you can rearrange the checkpoints to make your own course and complete it much faster than you could normally. It's absolutely great, and every single level has some sort of really clever systemic solution just waiting to be discovered. Teardown also has an absolute boatload of mods, like this insanely awesome AI dinosaur. I mean, just look at this shit, come on, what's not to like? At second place is the brilliant Neon White, a future classic in the making and a landmark step in innovation for the FPS. The way the game works is that you have to run around each level killing all the demons on the map as fast as you can before getting to the end. But you don't have a fixed arsenal. Instead, you pick up guns in the form of cards, each of which can then be discarded to gain a cool platforming effect, like a jump, a ground pound, a grapple, and a bunch of other stuff. The end result is an incredibly intense yet weirdly elegant fusion of FPS and speedrunning platformer, where each and every shot counts, and you've got to exactly time all of your movements to execute shortcuts, take out a bunch of enemies, or pull off crazy maneuvers. And let me tell you, there is no feeling quite like the sublime experience pulling off your first ace medal worthy run through a particularly hard level, using every trick in the book to shave off precious microseconds. You feel like an unstoppable demon-slaying machine, and I absolutely love it. The best bit of Neon White though is how you can treat it as seriously or as casually as you like. If you just want to progress, then you can shoot for the fairly easy gold medals, but for more advanced players, each medal tier unlocks more and more optional activities, like a treasure hunt in each level and a completionist ace medal, which itself unlocks the global leaderboards for you to compete with your fellow speedrunning psychopaths. It's great. Outside the frenzied shooting, there's even a pretty cool story delivered with the cringiest, most 2000s ass anime dialogue of all time, which is, I'm not going to beat around the bush, it's genuinely awful, but in a way that's 100% deliberate and mostly pretty endearing. And that brings me to my personal #1 recommendation of games that you should have played from this year, and that is Citizen Sleeper, a love letter to classic RPGs, dice, and good old-fashioned sci-fi. You begin Citizen Sleeper as a mass-produced cyborg recently escaped from your corporate masters and seeking to create a new life for yourself. The only problems being that you have no money, no idea where you are, and if you don't regularly consume special medicine made by the corporation that owned you, you die. So, Citizen Sleeper quickly becomes this fight for survival on a strange space station as you have to ration your resources to make money, repair yourself, and eke out some sort of living aboard the Eye. Doing so doesn't involve boring old conversation trees or vanilla combat though. Instead, it relies on smart use of your dice, which are rolled at the start of each day and have to be allocated carefully to make sure you don't starve, organically creating some great tough decisions as you have to split your resources between survival and helping out the characters that mean the most to you. For example, Lem, who's helping to build a massive colony ship in the hopes of securing a better life aboard it for him and his daughter, Feng the engineer who's trying to unravel a conspiracy, or this AI trapped in a vending machine. Regardless of which plot thread you choose to follow, you're always going to find a great story about finding or building a new identity for yourself and what it really means to have a sense of autonomy in a world where everything from your body to your remaining time has been commodified. Speaking of which, the game's a tenner, which I think is a pretty good deal. And there we are. 20 games from 2022. Honestly, this was one of the hardest years to narrow down to just 20 games, and there are so many titles missing from the list this year that I would have loved to include. Hopefully though, I managed to curate things well, and you've seen at least one title that you think looks interesting enough to be worth picking up and giving a go. I hope you enjoy it. You're welcome. Of course, we're not quite done yet. I've actually got 5 whole additional games you should have played locked away from the public eye. And if you want to know what they are, you're going to need to bring me all 14 Ascension crystals hidden throughout the world. Alternatively, you could just give me some money on Patreon. Not only will everyone who supports the channel on Patreon get some bonus content in the form of these extra recommendations, they can also get behind the scenes looks at the videos, early access, and even their names in the credits. If that's the kind of thing that takes your fancy, then, well, go take a look at the link below and potentially join the list of my top tier mysterious benefactors, who are Algabrut, Ali Wright, Asaran, Auna94, Bardic Dragoon, Brennan Spalding, Brian Latariani, Konstantin Amend, Cosmix360, Daniel Medjes, Das Kangaroo, David Setzer, Dirk Jan Karambeld, Digletier, Dotwo, Ekton, Edward Franklin Woods, Eugene Bulkin, Gazkull, ISAW Dano, Iofer93, Jacob Dylan Riddle, Jordan Gear, Justin Dent, Lee Berman, Mace Window 54, NWDD, Nate Graff, Patrick Romberg, Peter D. Tomasak, Phoenix Thurikaz, Redadex, Regal Regex, Ray's Dad, Rajigar, Sheldon Hearn, Simon Jacobson, Sir Snakespeare, Steve Riley, Strateger in Ultima, The Forbidden Shrimp, Tin Markovic, Ty Guerin, T-Corn, Tyler Duncan, Uprising, Whimsical Wisp, Zach Brandmeier, Zach Grendel, and Chow. Okay, that's me finally blessedly done for the year. Have a happy 2023, or else I will kick down your door and force you to. How's about that? Until then, bye bye.